Hi, Stuart. This is Jan.
Yes,
Could you talk about will, as in, do I have free will or is everything I do predetermined?
sounds like a very theosophical question. Uh, Look, we make choices in life. We use our will as we think we know better how to use it, instead of allowing ourselves to connect our will with something of a higher nature,
Hmm.
give us the ability to grow inside and really connect and have a spiritual life. So most people, their will comes from kind of a sense of imperiousness. They know better. They're going to fight for this. They're going to use their will for that. And it all comes from the mind. And it creates an enormous amount of tension, not only inside a human being, but with everybody around them. So, what I'm trying to get to is there's a very real use of will, and when you connect with spirit and understand how important it is, to use your will to develop a chakra system, to build a connection with God, to grow inside yourself, then it's not a matter of free will or, predetermination. I mean, look, everything is predetermined, even free will. It just depends upon how you use the will. Now, I learned years ago that none of this works unless I use my will to overcome the blocks inside me. And when I learned how to overcome those internal blocks, it was a matter of me using my will. I am going to grow inside. I'm not going to allow these blocks to interfere with my connection to God. And it takes will to do that, the internalization of one's will. And then your will becomes subservient to higher energy in the universe. And it has nothing to do with whether it's free will or, you know, divine providence or whatever, all these theosophical terms, religious terms that people have been debating since the beginning of time. It becomes use of the will to grow spiritually. And once that process begins to unfold in a human being, it provides you with everything that you need to have in your life, in your karma, you know, so that you can learn how to get closer to your spiritual life. So it's not a matter of predetermination or divine will or one's own free will. It's really growing past all that stuff and using will, which we all have, in an intelligent way to build inner life, to overcome all the blocks, all the tensions, all the things that are difficult in ourselves, to connect with spirit. Now, I don't know if that's use of free will. It's also a use of predetermination, because in this lifetime, a person, their predetermination is that they're going to have a spiritual life, but they're not going to have a spiritual life if they don't do the work to get there. So then you have a matter of will. What do you want? What does a human being want? And mostly people use will to attain power, money, position in life, self-image of who they are and what they are. And of course, all of that just goes to the grave, doesn't go anywhere. Using it to develop a spiritual life, look, we also go to the grave, but we take with us is an open heart, love, wisdom, you know, profound knowledge, of how to keep connected with a higher force in the universe. And yes, and in the meantime, if in your karma you have to have money and success and this and that, it comes, it will come. Because when you develop the chakra system, it becomes an expansion of your capacity to include everything you need to have in life. You understand? That will help you get closer to God. Everything you need, I should put it better, everything you need to learn in life and everything you need to get free of in life in order to have a connection with higher energy. So it's not predetermination versus free will, and all of that falls within the sphere of a spiritual life. None of those things are in conflict with each other. We use our free will to build an inner life that enables us to, touch on what we're determined and how we're determined to live our lives.
Thank you, Stuart.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question? I mean, these are subjects I've always heard people arguing about, when I used to take philosophy classes at the university and, theological classes in religion, all the big arguments, free will versus predetermination. And I finally had to get free of it. I had to use my will to get free of all that stuff. It was making me crazy. Who can understand any of this stuff? And when it finally came to the fact that you use your will to get to God, and that's what you're determined to do, predetermined to do in this lifetime. And without the use of free will to do it, you're not going to get there. So it's a choice. You can choose material, you can choose mental, or you can choose the development of a spiritual life. And that's what you're predetermined to do in this lifetime. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? I mean, those are always kind of boring conversations anyway. I'm not much of a theologian, although I probably understand that stuff. When I used to have a rabbi, used to be a student of mine, and and he taught at the Hebrew seminary in Jerusalem and also I think in Cincinnati. And he used to call me up for my interpretations of the Bible. I really mean it. And I would, spend 10, 15 minutes. He would give me a quote from the Bible and he wanted my interpretation. And then he said, we never learned anything like this, in the seminary, in the theological school. So I'd give him some mystical, Kabbalistic type interpretation of what the Bible really, what is between the lines, not the lines. And that you can't understand in the intellect. It comes from the heart. It comes from surrender. It comes from being free of yourself, to allow yourself to touch on deeper levels of understanding. Does anyone else have a question? And all this work is about is preparing each and every one of us to go to that depth of inner work and consciousness to where we see the world in a completely different way. And in many cases, it's an even more commonsensical way of seeing life. We don't sit around judging everybody. We don't, do the things that most people do on a daily basis. But we see the world, as I say all the time, it's our teacher. And even the negative things are not negative, they're just teachers that are telling you what you got to learn in your life in order to grow and build inside a connection with higher energy. Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, then there will be meditation on Wednesday. And then, as I've been announcing for the last forever, on Thursday, I'm going away for 5 days. Celebrate my daughter's birthday. I probably will have at least 1 or 2 meditation classes when I'm gone. So just keep an eye out for an invite, in the mornings, If you don't get one, it doesn't mean it means I didn't send one because I can't do it. But I probably will have at least a few classes from where I am. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you. God bless you all and a wonderful evening. And say in every class, I'm deeply grateful for your presence, each and every one of you. And God bless you and absorb this energy. Don't just bounce into something. Lie down for 20 minutes and let this energy just absorb inside you. Let it begin to really transform your consciousness. Okay, we'll see everybody on Wednesday. Thank you. Bless
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
you. Good night.